Chiara woke up that morning with a heaviness in her heart that no mother should ever feel. It was the day she was supposed to say goodbye to her baby, born lifeless just a few days earlier. Little Tommaso, the name she and her husband Marco had chosen for their son, had never had the chance to open his eyes and see the world. The house was silent, a stark contrast to the cries of joy they had imagined they would hear. Marco was preparing coffee in the kitchen, but his movements were mechanical, lifeless. Chiara got out of bed, feeling empty and lost. Every step towards the bathroom felt like an eternity. Every glance in the mirror reflected her pain. The clock on the wall ticked relentlessly, marking the time that separated them from the ceremony. Chiara dressed carefully, wearing a simple but elegant black dress, trying to find a semblance of normality amid the emotional chaos that overwhelmed her. Marco approached her, holding her tightly and whispering words of comfort that seemed empty. The church was immersed in reverential silence. Friends and family had gathered to support Chiara and Marco, but their words of consolation were like a distant echo, unable to fill the void. Chiara looked at the small white coffin placed in front of the altar and felt a vice grip her heart. The priest spoke in a soft voice, offering words of hope and faith, but Chiara could barely follow him. Every word seemed lost in his pain. It was a pain that only those who have lost a child can understand, a darkness that envelops every thought and every breath. When the moment came, Chiara approached the coffin. His hands trembled as he stroked the smooth wood. He felt a tear slide down his cheek and fall onto the cold surface. "Goodbye, my little one," she whispered, her voice broken by tears. "I'm so sorry." Just then, an unexpected sound broke the silence. A cry, a baby's cry. Chiara stiffened, her breath caught in her throat. He looked around, trying to figure out if he was imagining everything. But the crying continued, loud and clear. Chiara's eyes fell on the coffin again. Her heart pounded in her chest as she moved even closer. Marco, who was at his side, looked equally shocked. "Chiara," he whispered, his voice full of disbelief. With trembling hands, Chiara lifted the lid of the coffin. Inside, wrapped in a small white blanket, was Tommaso. His eyes were open, and his crying was loud and vibrant. Chiara felt her knees give way, and she dropped to her knees next to the coffin, her tears now of joy and amazement. The priest approached, equally incredulous. Friends and family moved closer, holding their breath. Chiara lifted Tommaso from the coffin, hugging him tightly to her chest. The little boy continued to cry, the most beautiful sound he had ever heard. "It's a miracle," murmured the priest, making the sign of the cross. "Only God can explain this." Chiara couldn't stop crying and laughing at the same time. Marco came closer, hugging them both, feeling a spark of hope for the first time after days of despair. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions and medical explanations. The doctors couldn't understand how it was possible, but Tommaso was alive and apparently in good health. Chiara and Marco took him home, incredulous and grateful for the miracle they had experienced. Every day with Tommaso was a blessing. Every smile, every gurgle filled the house with a joy they thought they had lost forever. Chiara spent hours watching him sleep, fearing that it could all be a dream. But it wasn't a dream, it was real. Tommaso was alive and growing, surrounded by the love of his parents. Years passed, and Tommaso grew strong and healthy, becoming a curious and lively child. Chiara and Marco never forgot that day in which they had almost lost everything, but which had turned into the most incredible day of their lives. Tommaso knew nothing about his miraculous birth, but Chiara and Marco knew that one day they would tell him about it. For now, they enjoyed every moment with him, aware of the preciousness of life and the mystery of miracles. Thomas' story became a legend in their community, a symbol of hope and faith. Every year, on the day of his birth, Chiara and Marco organized a small celebration, thanking fate for the extraordinary gift they had received. And so, amidst many challenges and joys, the family continued to grow, always carrying with it the memory of that day when the cry of a child coming from the coffin had changed everything. As the years passed, Thomas proved to be a special child in many ways. His curiosity and intelligence were evident from his early school years. He loved to explore and learn new things, and his parents were constantly amazed by his thirst for knowledge. Chiara and Marco decided to tell Tommaso her incredible story when he turned 10. They chose a quiet evening, sitting together on the sofa, and delicately began to explain to him the miracle of his birth. Tommaso listened in silence, his eyes wide and full of wonder. "Am I really a miracle?" he asked finally, with a shy smile. "You are our miracle," Chiara replied, hugging him tightly. "And every day with you is a gift." Thomas took this story to heart, using it as a source of inspiration to face life's challenges. He felt he had a special mission, a reason why he had been brought back to life, and this pushed him to give his all in everything he did. One day, while exploring an old library, Thomas found an ancient book that spoke of miracles and inexplicable phenomena. Fascinated, he decided to deepen his knowledge on these topics, convinced that his story could be connected to something bigger. He began studying texts on medicine, spirituality, and science, trying to understand how what had happened at his birth was possible. He spoke to doctors, scientists, and scholars, but no one could give a definitive explanation. However, everyone agreed that his was an extraordinary story, which defied the laws of nature. During this research, Thomas came across a fascinating theory, the idea that life itself was an intricate mystery, full of events that escape our understanding. This led him to reflect on the nature of faith, hope, and love, three elements that had played a crucial role in his life. Meanwhile, Thomas' story continued to inspire the community. People came from all over to listen to the story of the child who had returned to life, finding comfort and hope in it. The family decided to organize periodic meetings in which Marco and Chiara shared their experience, hoping to offer support to those who were going through difficult times. As Tommaso grew up, he began to actively participate in these meetings, telling his story with passion and determination. His words had a profound impact on those who listened to him, and he soon became a symbol of hope and resilience. Despite his growing fame, Thomas remained humble and grateful for the miracle he had been granted. He continued to live a simple but meaningful life, dedicating himself to study and supporting his community. As time passed, Thomas decided to pursue a career in the medical field. He wanted to help others as he had been helped, and perhaps discover some hidden secret of life. He studied with passion and eventually graduated with honors in medicine, specializing in neonatology. During his career, Tommaso was involved in numerous complex cases, but his empathetic approach and determination to make a difference made him a highly respected doctor. Every time he saw a newborn in difficulty, he remembered the miracle of his birth, and this pushed him to fight with all his strength to save those little lives. One day, while he was on duty, Tommaso received an emergency call. A young mother was about to give birth to a premature baby, and the complications were serious. She rushed to the delivery room, doing her best to save the newborn. After hours of struggle, the child finally breathed on his own. Thomas felt a wave of relief and gratitude as he handed the newborn to his mother. His eyes filled with tears when the young woman whispered an emotional thank you. That day, Thomas fully realized the meaning of his journey. He had come back to life for a reason, to be a beacon of hope and a helping hand to those who needed it. Tommaso continued to work as a doctor for many years, becoming a respected figure in the field of neonatology. His story, that of the child who had returned to life, continued to inspire generations of doctors, patients, and ordinary people. He wrote a book about his experience, entitled The Cry of Life, which became an international bestseller. In the book, he not only told his story, but also explored themes of hope, faith, and the mystery of life. His conferences attracted thousands of people, and wherever he went, Thomas found souls who needed to listen to his story, to find in it the strength to face their own difficulties. One day, during one of his lectures, Thomas met a young woman named Anna. She had read his book and wanted to thank him personally. Anna had lost a newborn son, and Tommaso's story had given her the strength to continue living. That meeting marked the beginning of a new friendship. Tommaso and Anna understood each other deeply, linked by experiences of loss and rebirth. Over time, that friendship grew into something deeper and more meaningful. Tommaso and Anna married, and a few years later they had a son, whom they named Marco, in honor of Tommaso's father. When Marco was born, Chiara and Marco, Tommaso's parents, were present, full of joy and gratitude. Tommaso's life continued, enriched by the presence of Anna and little Marco. Their family was a living testament to the power of hope and resilience. Every day, Tommaso and Anna taught their son the importance of gratitude and respect for life. Tommaso continued to work as a doctor, but he also found time for his family and for the people who needed his help. His story, that of the child who cried in the coffin, remained a beacon of light in an often dark and confusing world. As the years passed, Tommaso decided to found a clinic dedicated to the care of premature newborns and their families. The clinic, called Thomas House, became a center of excellence and hope for thousands of families. Tommaso worked tirelessly, training new generations of doctors and nurses with the same spirit of compassion and dedication that had guided him throughout his life. His clinic became a symbol of hope, and his story continued to inspire. When Tommaso watched little Marco play in the clinic garden, he felt a deep gratitude. His life, which began with a miracle, had become a living testimony to the power of love and faith. Thomas lived a full and meaningful life, dedicating every day to the mission of helping others and being the source of hope. When the moment of his last breath came, he was surrounded by his family, by Anna and Marco, and by the many friends and colleagues he had met along the way. As he closed his eyes for the last time, Thomas felt a profound peace. He had lived an extraordinary life, one that began with a miracle and was filled with love, hope, and service. And as the world continued to turn, his story remained a beacon of light for all who needed to believe in miracles and the possibility of a new beginning. How you think the story of Thomas and his miracle can inspire and give hope to those who are going through difficult times in their lives? Write it in the comments.